So this week's Parsha is Parsha's Teruma, which literally means to take, to give, to trum, to donate. And we jump right in from Parsha's Mishpatim, talking about all the specifics of giving money to the, of legal laws. We jump to the donations that they gave, and then the building of the Mishkan, and exactly how they built the Mishkan down to the centimeter, exactly all the details that went into it. Teruma is a relatively short parsha, only has 96 psukim. But it starts over here, page 444. So psukim start off, Dabal b'nei Yisrael v'yikchu li teruma. They should take for me a teruma. Rashi explains this as a separation, hafrasha. And it says, "V'me'es kal ish asher yidvenu libo tikra terumasi." From any person who his heart is generous, you should take the truma, the tithing. Then it goes on to talk about exactly what the way this truma was. Page 444, you'll see when you get the chumash. So it does say the word truma three times in the first. If you just read these psukim without any commentary, you'll see everything seems to be, normally if I say I'm collecting contributions, that's it. It's like, and collect for me contributions from anyone who wants to give, take the contribution, and this is a contribution which you should take. That is the literal translation of what we just read. And obviously we know every word in the Torah is accurate, and for a reason, every letter, every dot. So what is all this repetitiveness that's going on over here? So Rashi says that we learn from here that there were three things that they had to give. One, that they had to give a certain amount for every single person. A bekala golgoles. Every person had to give. This went towards the base of the wall around the Mishkan, the Adanim. The second donation they had to give was to buy the sacrifices, the offerings. And the third donation they had to give they gave all the things to build the Mishkan: gold, silver, etc., etc. So basically, there was three different types of donations. There wasn't just one fund for the whole Mishkan. There were three different funds. Two of them, one of them I think they had to give, and then the other two were optional. One was for the sacrifices, and one was for the actual building and the clothing, as we're going to see in just a bit. What's interesting in this first pasuk is it says, "Me'es kal ish asher yudvenu liboy." Take truma from any person that is feeling generous, is feeling kind. Rashi says he does it with ratzon tov, with goodwill. It's an interesting dynamic that nowadays we live more and more in a world where if we can't see it, we don't believe it. In those days, there were institutions, until today, there are moisters, that means institutions that will not take money from people that don't have the good intention. Now you could say, well, everybody has a good intention. Let's say they won't even take the government money because they say the government might one day impose something negative on us. Or sometimes they might even not take money from a source which they don't trust. They will literally turn down money because it doesn't come from the right place. You could say money's money, right? If you need to support an institution, who cares where the money come from? You see from this idea of the Mishkan, me'es kal ish asher yidvenu liboy. They only wanted contributions for people that did it with the right intention. Imagine you had somebody that would say, I'm going to pay for, this amount, $1 million for the mikvah, but with intention that you give me voting rights or whatever, some ulterior motive. They would have said no. So the intention mattered, right? Even though it's all the same money. The intention behind the people giving the money mattered. And it's the same thing when it comes to us. When we give charity, when we do, it's okay. When we give charity, whenever we do things, we should have the right intention. It's not just about the end result. It's not just about, the donation. So that's Me'es Kalesh Hashay Dvenu Libo Tichas Romas. Okay, so as we mentioned, it says the word Teruma three times. Rashi brings from Amur Rabbi Seinu that there's three different types of pots that they had. Okay? Then Hashem told Moshe, this is what you're going to need to collect for the Mishkan. Because Moshe didn't know what this project was. They'd never had a Mishkan before. After they had a Mishkan, then they had a Beis HaMikdash 1, Beis HaMikdash 2. But before that, they didn't know. So how do you build a house for Hashem? What are you going to build it out of? So he said, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need gold. This is in Pasuk Gimel, the end of Pasuk Gimel. Gold, silver, copper, tcheles, which is like turquoise wool, argamon, which is purple wool. These were expensive things. Telas, shani, scarlet wool, shesh ve'izem, linen, and goat hair. And it goes on and on and on. All the things that they would need for the construction and for the running of the Mishkan. Very, very valuable things, most of these. Stones, avni shoyam, va'avni miluim, la'efa v'lacheshen. And then if you look at the last line on this page, 444, va'asuli mikdash. This is a famously quoted, beautiful pasuk, right? Va'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'soichem. And they will make for me a sanctuary, a holy place, and I will dwell in it. Among them. It doesn't say in it, it says among them. What does it mean?
It means that we have to build in each of us has to build in Mishkan in himself for God.
Again, Hashem says, you build a house for me. Of course, I'll be in the house, but I'll also be inside all of you. And you should know, what I take from this as well is that, we're going to discuss the Mishkan for a long time. Besides Kisisa, we're going to discuss, collecting the Mishkan, how to build a Mishkan, then building a Mishkan, a long time. Out of all the places, over here is where the pasuk says that God will dwell inside all of our hearts. What's special over here? This is when they were collecting money for it, which to me seems to send a message that if they do something for Hashem, Hashem will dwell inside of them. It's at the time when the whole nation came together and they all gave contributions to the Mishkan. Maybe not all of them gave gold, but everybody had to give at least a beka, the certain value coin to build the base. Everybody had to build some part of the Mishkan. The half shekel in those days, every year they used to give a half shekel. So everybody, and it's that action. When you give part of yourself to Hashem, Hashem gives part of himself to us. So out of all the places we could have discussed, Hashem saying he's going to be inside all of us, it says it over here when they were giving contributions.
Also, Rabbi, I'm thinking about building the Mishkan, that the Torah is giving so many details and they comparing to the creation of the world. So it's creation of the world, God spoke and the world was created. We as human beings, we need, I think, the natural need to feel and to build the thing in order for us to reinforce our connection with God. I think that building the Mishkan is for us, okay? It's not for God.
Yeah.
God doesn't need a Mishkan. But we could, let's say, the Torah could, like in one sentence, say, build the Mishkan on one chapter, done with it. No, because this is so important. We have to feel into that we are giving from ourselves. Like, if you build, let's say, this table, you will be more connected than if you buy it in a store.
100%.
So I think that's also something that's very important.
Yeah, so just to explain that a little, like even deeper in a way, they say there's 3 ways that you can get something. One way is somebody can give you a present. Imagine somebody come and give you a brand new couch. You sit on the couch, very nice, very comfortable. The second way is you can buy it from a store. So you earn some money, spend a month, you make some money, you go to the store, you buy a couch, you sit on that couch. Much nicer. There's an even better way you can earn it. As you say, if you build it yourself. Imagine you spend half a year and you find the leather and you find the fabric and you find the wood and you build it yourself. You sit in that couch and it's we call Gan Eden. Now, that is the best of the best. It's the same couch, right? It's the same couch. They say the same thing as us on this world. When we get up to Shamayim, our world to come is going to be not just somebody gave us a present, because we earn it. Not only do we buy it, our portion in Olam Haba, in the world to come, is going to be, we've built it bit by bit by bit. And when we get there, we're going to go, this is ours. And it speaks to everything in life. Before I put my son to bed last night, Yossi, and he says to me, why is this war in Israel going on so long? Well, Hashem could have wiped them out immediately. He could have, it could have been over 5 minutes. Why has it been more than a year and they're still fighting? And, he's a kid. It's an innocent question. Of course, a good question. I said, I don't know why, but I do know that it's our job to fight this war and then to win the war. And then it's a process. We say in Pirkei Avos, the fum tzara agra, the more pain, the more gain, the more effort, the more reward. And it's the same thing. The Mishkan, it's crazy. We're building a house of Hashem, but everything they had to build, only one part of the Mishkan came by miracle, which was the menorah. The menorah was so complicated; it had to be built out of one block of gold, and Moshe didn't understand how to do it properly. And so Hashem said, "I'm going to show you how to do it." And the pasuk says the word "zois." There's a whole. Maybe we'll see it, but it comes later in Pekudei, in Vayakel. But everything else they had to build it bit by bit. Sounds crazy, building a house of Hashem. No, because it was their job. And by building it, they improved as people. And that's why there's so much written about a construction project in the Torah. Why is the Torah going into all the details, the measurements and everything? Because every bit came from Hashem and every bit they had to do themselves.
Rabbi, it seemed to me that up to the history, that the personal touch in building the Mishkan, it was very important.
Yeah.
We know that this tent was really built only by Jewish artists and the people of Israel. They were in the desert, Am Levadad Yishkon, no Mexican workers, and of course not other.
Yeah.
They themselves needed to work. Then King Solomon, Melech Shlomo, built the temple. A great part of it was done also by Israelis and some workers from the Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it took a long time until the end of the kingdom. Then the people came from Babel and they built the second, and it was fine. It was along the time of the Tanaim and so on. And then when King Ordos, the cruel person, builds the very beautiful mikdash that everybody said, the ones that haven't seen the mikdash of Ordos haven't seen something beautiful, but this mikdash that of course was built by foreign people and by such a cruel king, it was standing less than 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that from this history, we see something from the importance
100%.
of the personal touch to everything that we are doing when we are talking about Avodat Hashem.
Yeah, 100%.
And Rabbi, I looked here and it said Vasuli Mikdash. It doesn't say Vasuli Mishkan. The word Kadosh.
Yeah,
So only afterwards the word Mishkan. So the Mishkan has to be Kadosh.
Yeah.
We have to be in such a holiness that
We bring the
God will
holiness,
be
yeah.
able to dwell with us. Okay.
Yeah.
That's such wonderful
Yeah.
thing, the Hebrew.
It says at the bottom, if you look at the picture on page 1356, I don't know if they have it over there.
But you
Some
can
of
look at
them,
me.
No, I would have them in English.
You have it?
but you'll see the
The new one?
picture of this
What is the
one,
new one?
yeah, of how the Mishkan
Yeah.
looked.
Oh,
Oh,
this is the mission.
This is a Mishkan. This is based exactly on the pasuk. It's not. It's all based exactly on the pasuk. Exactly how many poles there were, how big it was, the ratio. This is the layout of how they built it. So they have good pictures, so we can go along with the instructions.
right.
Okay, so there's even has two opinions. Was the entrance directly line with the rest? Was it a bit 10 amos in front? Anyway, so he basically said, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to explain it to you how to build the tavnit hamishkan, or tavnit kokelav, the form of the mishkan, the form of its vessels. This is what you have to do. And it begins with the holiest part of the Mishkan, which is the Aron, page 446. Va'asu Aron atzei shittim. Make a Aron out of cedar wood. And exactly what the height it should be, 2.5 amos height and 1.5 amos width. And you can see in the diagram on page 1357. exactly how it would look. There was wood in the middle. There's three boxes. There's a box of gold on the outside, a box of wood on the inside, and inside of it was another box of gold. So that way, whenever you looked at it from the inside or the outside would be full of gold. And he told them exactly how to build it. It would be like essentially just a box, but then it also had very long poles, and it says exactly how long where each ring would be. That there would be a crown that was coated in gold, and obviously the kruvim. It was an interesting, very interesting pasuk which jumps out at the bottom of page 446, pasuk Tesvav 15. But the poles have to remain in the aron all the time. You can actually see a picture of the aron also on page 447 at the bottom. But those poles, those badim, had to stay in all the time. You'd say, well, who cares? When you transport it, because this iron had to be transported a lot. They even took it to war. But when you transport it, you move it. No, they were told they're not allowed to take those poles out any of the time. And the many different explanations about why this could be. Some say that it showed that they always had to be ready to move. If Hashem said they had to move, they had to be ready to move immediately. Rav Shimshon Fal Hirsch says the idea of the poles staying in because the aron was where we kept the original luchos. Now the first one was destroyed, but then the second one, and even actually the pieces of the first one, and they also kept the Sefer Torah in there. And the aron represented the holiest thing that we have, and it represented the Torah. And it always had poles in, because to represent that the Torah is mobile. There's never any one place for the Torah, right? So therefore the poles had to be there to show the Torah isn't only in Yerushalayim. The Torah isn't only a certain person, certain place. The Torah is everywhere. That's why the Torah was given to us in a desert, to show that it's not bound by any specific country, any place, any geography. So that's what Rav Shimshon Fal Hirsch says why the poles used to be. There's an interesting thing about 300 years ago when the Reform movement started. They wanted to make their synagogues look more like churches. They did lots and lots of things, but one of the things they did is they moved the chitza, right? But they also moved like things that you wouldn't think would be important. They did. So, for example, they took the bima, the podium in the middle where you read the Torah, and they moved it to the front. So they would have this. It's similar to what we have here, but here it's okay because it's in the middle. And the Chasam Sofer came out. Chasam Sofer was a great sage about 250 years ago, and he was like vehemently against this. Like he was like, it's strictly forbidden to do this. And people said to him, like, where in halacha does it say that you can't put the beam at the front? And he said, because there's a reason why Christians have the podium in the front and Jews have the podium in the middle. He said, because when you have the bima where the Torah is read in the front, it means it's not for everybody. It's just for the rabbi, the priest, the reader. It's not for everybody. Whereas in Judaism, the bima is always in the middle. That means even, let's say, in cases of when the Torah brings Hakel, these times when they would gather all the Jews and the king would read the Torah, whatever it is, they took it into the middle. And that's why synagogues were always, for thousands of years, built with the podium where you read the Torah in the middle. Because it's in the middle. It's for everybody. It's for everybody. So he said by this movement, the Haskalah, the Reform movement, trying to move it forward, they're trying to take away the Torah from everybody and move towards a Christian mentality. And that's why he said it's very, very strictly forbidden. And this is true. If you look in Christian, even they'd say themselves, you ask a Christian, what's your laws about giving charity? How much charity do you have to give to fulfill the mitzvah? I don't know. Ask my priest. Nobody knows anything. They don't learn any halachas. They don't learn any texts. They don't even learn the Old Testament or the New Testament. They have no idea. They have no idea whatsoever. Only the priests and maybe one or two learned people, because they deliberately designed their religion to be for elites, and they just have, think good and be good. Whereas Judaism is not like that. Judaism, the Torah is for everyone. You come in a shul, the first thing you see on the shelf is a siddur, and then a chumash. Everybody gets a chumash. We read in the middle, and it's meant for everyone. So the aron, having the poles inside the aron, meant that even though the Aron had to be away. It had to be most of the time in the Holy of Holies, in the Kodesh HaKodashim, behind the thing, and only the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, could go in on Yom Kippur. But it was mobile. That means it was ready to be taken anywhere, anytime. The Aron, which was a representation of the Torah, was ready to move all the time. The poles had to stay in 24/7.
Also, we could say that, the post was staying there all the time with the badim. So maybe it's kind of a hint of our fate that we wanted so many thousands of years, and we were carrying the Mishkan with us.
Carrying the Mishkan, yeah.
You stole mine.
So I think that's what I can see.
Yeah. No, we carry the
That's what
Torah with
saved
us. Yeah.
There's no other nation in the world that went through so much and they were saved like us because of the Mishkan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
we
why I
carried
think
with us.
it's in this same pasuk, sorry, in this same sentence, the last sentence on the page, Tes Zayin 16, it says, "V'nasata el Aaron es ha'edus." Right over here, it says to put the luchos, the testimonial tablets, inside of the Aaron. Right here, when it's telling us that we're going to be moving around, right here, when it's telling us that it's for everybody, it tells us make sure that you put it inside.
Happy because she stole my idea. I want the violin. It's considered to be a Jewish instrument, especially among the klezmers in Europe and all that. And I read in the book that one of the reasons that because it's small and easy to be carried, not like piano, and Jewish people were supposed to wander for many, sometimes good reasons, sometimes very bad reasons. So here the violin is ready, simply take it and continue to do your music in another place. And
Wow, yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, the next thing we're going to discuss is the lid of the Aron, known as the kaporet. And it tells them exactly how to make it. The kaporet has to be 2.5 by 1.5. Again, you got the pictures. Do you have the picture? You have the picture. Yeah, you see, no, the previous page. You see the lid? That's what we're discussing now. It's on the next page. And you have to make the keruvim. The keruvim, the famous keruvim, which would be like the face of young children, and their wings would be above them. So you can see in the picture the way they do that, because that's the way it's described, would be above them. They would the wings. The pasuk says "Soichachim bekanfei ma'akaporos," would shelter the kaporos, and they would face each other. And our sages tell us at times when we didn't do good, they would face away from each other. But they were made to be facing each other. And then you put this lid on the Aron, and in the Aron you put the luchos, the edus, the tablets. And when they had prophecy back then, this is where they would come for the prophecy. We're going to see over and over again. When Moshe, he was called to the Oil Moed. He was called here to the Holy of Holies. When they would need to get a message about a war or what to do, what's the right thing, they would come over here to the Aron, to the Kruvim, and the sound would come from between these two Kruvim, sort of the voice, so to speak, of Hashem, and that's how they would know what to do. So this really was the holiest element. Okay, and like I said, they're very, very specific in size. You see they're very big over here. They're not little. They specifically had to have 10 tefachim, about what is it, 40 inches above the lid to the wings. There had to be a big gap in between the two. Like I said, every measurement is detailed. And even the order with which they made it, Rashi explains that the Torah says specifically, make the box, put in the tablets, and then put the lid on. They weren't allowed to put on the lid first. It was all very, very specific. Everything was like so holy. Every detail mattered. And we're going to see over and over again this line, when they actually built it, they did like Hashem said, because everything Hashem said, they did. Including, as we're going to see later on, they build all the furniture and all the utensils and even all the garments before they build the building. Normally you build a building and then you buy the furniture. They did it the opposite way around. We'll see then why they did it. But they did everything Hashem told them to. Everything to the detail in the right order as they were told. Okay, so that is the Aron, the first part that we start with. The next one after the paragraph in Pasuk Chaf Gimel 23, then they were told to make the shulchan, the shelves of bread. There would be 6 loaves of bread on either side. These bread were made at the beginning of each week, and they stayed fresh. By miracle, they stayed fresh for the whole week. And this as well was coated in gold. It was made out of the same Atzei Shittim acacia wood, and it was the length is 2 amos, 2 cubits. By the way, an amma is, let me just put this in here. This is an amma from here to here. So like 2 of these, and 2 by 1, and 1.5 height, and they would cover it in gold, and they would also make a nice ring for it, etc., etc., etc. And it also had to have rings, because again, we talk about the Mishkan. The Mishkan had to be very mobile. Everything had to be ready to go on a moment's notice. And it says, it didn't just say put rings to carry them. It says exactly where the rings should be. It says where the supports should be, where the tubes should be, how the breads would be laid out, and how it would have tubes and spoons and supports. You can see in the diagrams exactly the way it was made to look. Yeah. And then it says, there would be bread in front of me all the time. Hashem says, you had to have bread all the time on this table. Like I said, they would make it once a week. And at the end of the week, by the way, the Kohanim would take this bread. But, it wasn't like the Hashem took this bread. The bread would stay there, and the Kohanim would take it out, but it had to be there the whole time. It was like the menorah was lit every day for the whole day. And that's actually the next one that we're going to discuss on page 450.
The menorah that you said.
Right, yeah, this is a menorah. Yeah. It's a menorah. The menorah is the one that gets discussed the most. Because first of all, the detail which the Torah is on page 1358. In page 1358, there's 2 pictures. Let me show you this. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
The menorah is the thing of the biggest debate, because there's a big machlokes Rashi in the Rambam. How did it look? Right? According to according to Rashi, it was round, and according to Rambam, it was square. It was triangle. Sorry. Right? Now, most people assume the menorah looked like the round version on the right hand side. But I think the Rambam says no, it was a triangle, right? But the Torah goes into excruciating. You'll see besides the triangle and circle, they look exactly the same. Every cup, there was a kaftar, there was a ferach, there was a gavia, there was flowers, there was goblets, and there was knobs, and every time there was one of these, and you can see the Torah is going to detail that. Not only the Torah is going to detail how every light in the menorah, these menorahs, not like nowadays what we light on Hanukkah. These things had 3 on either side, and each one of the 3 had to be facing inwards, and the middle one was in the middle. So you look at the top, the candles were in a deliberate space.
They cannot go that way.
Right, facing the middle, yeah. They all face the middle, and the pasuk says that it had to be hollowed out from a solid block of gold. Right, so they couldn't put it together with different pieces, and that's why it was so difficult to put it together. Okay. Similarly, every part of this menorah was pure gold. There was no wood inside it. The other things, the Aron had some wood in, the shulchan, the table had some wood in. This didn't have any wood in. Pure gold, extremely, extremely heavy, and the every bit of you needed tongs to light the flames, and cups and jugs. Everything was made out of gold. Every part of it. By the way, gold's very soft. Proper gold is it can be soft, so it means they also had to be very, very careful with it. But it goes on and on to detail it. And we'll see later that the Torah is going to say that make it in the form that I'm going to show you, and Hashem ended up making it because it was so difficult to make such a detailed thing chiseled out from one giant block of gold. That is the next one of the thing. That's the shulchan. Sorry, that's the menorah. So we've done so far the Aron, which went in the Holy of Holies. We moved out into the second area. They don't show that inside of the Mishkan itself, there was two areas. There was the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKodashim, and the Kodesh. Just a, and then we're going to discuss now the coverings. And by the way, you can see they know exactly the way they used to look. These colors are detailed in the Torah. The Aragaman made the bottom one and the top one, and there's 3 layers. The Torah details everything. So we have an unbelievable level of detail as to how the Mishkan exactly looked. Even though it was a one time, it wasn't like the Mishkan was ever instructed to be built again. It was built at one time. Maybe they did renovation, whatever, but they always built. It was exactly. We know exactly how it looked. The detail, man. Okay. I have to apologize. I have to leave now.
Okay.
You can stay learning, and if you want to keep on going, so these pictures are amazing. This.
Thank you. We had it.
But I have to leave, and next.